Hello,
Good
everyone.
afternoon.
I am Mimi Lichtenstein, and today I am here with Amr Better to talk all about fabulous adventures through Egypt. Amr, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, and thanks all the audience for allowing this opportunity to inspire your next travel to Egypt.
Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to talk with you about Egypt. It's actually a country I've never been to, but it's on my husband's bucket list, so I know someday soon we will be there. And today, why don't we get started by I'll share a map. And could you give us just a brief overview of the different areas? It's obviously, it's a good sized country, but typically when we come over there to visit, we're not going throughout the whole country. So, what are the areas that people focus on when they come to Egypt?
Well, Egypt's about 1 million kilometer, and I call Egypt the multiple destinations because when you come to Egypt, not only that you will enjoy, of course, seeing the pyramids and the Sphinx, which I believe is on everybody's bucket list, around the world, whether you're from the States or from anywhere in the world, the pyramids and the Sphinx are kind of must-see places. So, of course, Cairo is the entry city where everyone arrives and everyone from there plan their travel to either down south to Luxor and Aswan to do a Nile cruise or to the
Mhm.
Temple of Abu Simbel. Some people like to go on the Red Sea to the Red Sea Riviera of Hurghada. Others like to go to the Sinai Peninsula, where they go and visit the St. Catherine Monastery and enjoy the beautiful snorkeling and beaches of Sharm el Sheikh and Ras Mohammed. And in the last 20 years, the Western Desert has been pretty much really in fashion. So people like to go to Siwa, like to go to Dakhla, like to see the golden uh, mummies, the Golden Valley of the mummies. And so, as you can see, there are really multiple destinations. Almost really every, I would say, without exaggeration, every corner of this 1 million kilometer land has a unique experience and something different to offer in terms of food, in terms of people, language, experience, dialect. Just every part of this country is so very, very interesting and worth a visit. That's why we have a very high rate of repeat travel.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. And I know doing lots of research on Egypt recently that there are a lot of great areas to go for active travelers, for a little bit more adventure travelers if they want to go glamping in the desert or scuba diving in the Red Sea. So let's get started. I think today we'll first
Yeah,
start with some of
absolutely.
the Right. Let's get started with some of the hotels that are some of your favorite hotels. And I have up now for the people who are listening on the podcast a picture of the Marriott Mena house. You want
Yeah,
to give us some insight into this one, and then we
sure.
can go to some of your favorites in Cairo?
Sure. This is the historic Mena House Hotel. So this hotel is about over 100 years old. It
Mm.
was opened for the celebration of the opening of the Suez Canal, so certainly more than a century. It's a place where memories still alive, memories of Winston Churchill, Montgomery, President Carter, uh, King of Sweden, Gustav, and plenty of other celebrities have all been to this hotel. It was an Oberoi hotel for nearly maybe 30 years, and then it converted to Marriott just a few years ago. And now
Mhm.
it's going to be partially a JW Marriott and a Marriott hotel because the palace itself is closed for a major renovation, and it will be open next year. I mean, just sitting at this hotel itself really brings the vibes of the pyramids and the Sphinx, because you're literally really at the foot of the Sphinx and the pyramids from this beautiful, beautiful hotel. The
And I
pool is
think
amazing, the outlets, the experience, just really something very, very unique and different.
And I think that, one of the reasons that people really like it is because it is so close to the pyramids that you can get up early and get over to the pyramids
Yes.
before lots of other people. And that is advantageous, certainly when the weather is warm, but really any time of year.
You know, a few years back, I hosted a lovely party for one of Hollywood's most famous celebrities, Charlie Theron, and we had a little celebration right in front of the Churchill suite with candlelight dinners and music, and just the vibes of the pyramids that surround the place. I think it's a healing practice, to be honest. So I would advise anyone who has this connection to certainly stay there because it's such a magnificent hotel. It's a landmark by itself.
And I think too that, it's just like when you go to Paris and you get a room, your own personal room overlooking the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah,
You can have a room in a
yeah.
hotel looking out on the pyramids. That's pretty special.
This is as close as it gets. There's nothing else that is right there except that. This is one of my favorite hotel, of course. This is the Four Seasons Nile Plaza. It's right on the Nile. It's also a very, very beautiful hotel. It was opened about maybe 15 years ago. It's become probably the hottest spot now in town because people love the outlets, the restaurants, the lobby, the bars, the pool area. The rooms are very comfortable and right on the Nile again with beautiful balconies. And actually, one of the things that distinct Egypt from, I think, most other destinations is this view business. Everything in Egypt comes with a view of the pyramids, a view of a temple, a view of the Nile. So there's always a view of something. We don't, I go around the world. In fact, I'm sitting right here in Budapest today, actually, where we're doing this broadcasting, and I'm this beautiful, beautiful hotel, which is part of the Hyatt collection. It's called the Bracci Adver. It's a beautiful hotel. But when you think again of Egypt, you always have these magnificent view from every certain hotel you stay in. And in fact, most of our views are either a view of something iconic or a garden view. We don't have third option. That's it. So
one or the other. Well,
yeah,
there happens to be two Four Seasons in Cairo.
exactly.
And so here's a picture of the other one, the first residence. And
This is, the first residence is about maybe 20 years older. Again, it has two views, one of the River Nile and one of the zoo. So the Cairo Zoo, which was opened more than 100 years ago. I mean, Egypt is 7,000 years place. So obviously, when we talk number of years, we talk over hundreds anytime we talk years. And again, the Four Seasons is a lovely hotel. It's more boutique-ish, it's smaller. Now we're moving to the beautiful Ritz Carlton. This was actually the Hilton, and it was opened in the 50s. I remember hearing from my parents that when it was first opened, Sean Connery and Liz Taylor were invited for the opening with the dinner there with President Nasser, the former president of Egypt, of course, in this era. And the Ritz Carlton took over, reopened the hotel in 2000, I believe, 14. Again, magnificent view of the river, and the city rooms are overlooking the Egyptian Museum. So again, you just can never go wrong. Whichever hotel you choose, you always have an amazing view of something, and a back view also amazing. The rooms here are really nice and very spacious, and the lobby and the pool, everything there is just beautiful.
I will say that my colleagues.
Then you're moving, I guess, to.
Oh, I haven't moved quite yet, but I just wanted to add in that my colleagues who have been to several of the hotels love the Ritz Carlton because it's also a very local feel. There's a lot of local clientele there, so it's really good people watching to see real Egyptians who are there. And like you said, the views are stunning, and its location next to the museum is very unique and helpful when that's one of the coveted destinations that people have. And now we're moving on to the St. Regis. So obviously this is a stunning new building. It just opened, right?
This is just opened less than a year ago. Superb level of services, brand new. Again, great views of the river. You can almost see as far as the pyramids in a clear day sunshine. And then the back view is actually the old sort of slums, but it still looks very interesting for visitor. But most of the rooms really are overlooking just the Nile. And again, it's magnificent. spa, restaurants, the service is impeccable. We've turned also a number of our special guests there, and everyone just love it. It's absolutely stunning. So
Great.
again, it just gives you a different flavor. And of course, we're moving now down south to the Winter Palace
Mm-hmm.
in Luxor, and this is obviously a historic hotel. It used to be the king of Egypt before the 50s residence when he goes to Upper Egypt. So it's part of the Legend collection. It's managed by the Sofitel Group, and again, it's overlooking the Nile or the historic garden and the temple of Luxor. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, it just, again, it's a place that transmit history across the corridors are about 10 meters wide, so or a bit less. It just gives you kind of an imagination to how palatial that place is.
Right. And I think, like you said, it's a historic building. It was built in the late 1800s and obviously
Exactly. Yeah.
many
There's a
times.
restaurant there called 1806. That's
Mm,
where we take guests for special dining,
mm,
and it's by um, almost invitation. Maximum capacity is 40, so it's very small, but
okay.
really exquisite.
It
And then, of
sounds
course,
like,
I think you're moving to one of my favorite hotels. That's where Agatha Christie wrote her book, Death on
hmm
the Nile, where there's also a great restaurant called 1902. This
mm,
hotel, of course, is favored by world leaders. So I recall, growing up in the industry, I used to see, the French president, Mitterrand, D'Estaing, even Chirac, all sitting in the terrace for sunset time. Blair, and many other author and writers from all over the world. People just come, they just sit at the terrace, read, enjoy, rest. The rooms are beautiful, and they're made out of wood. And in fact, I've heard the story from the former Secretary General of the UN, Boutros Ghali, who used to say, "I enjoy having my drink and going up or walking down the stairs because I could hear the music of my heel, on the wood flooring of the hotel. It's so special.
beautiful. Well, I think
Great
again,
pool. Yeah,
and
very, very authentic.
all the reports I've heard are that it is very, very authentic. If you want to go to Egypt and stay in a hotel that really
It's
feels you're
very
in Egypt,
special.
yeah, this is the one.
Yes.
Then moving on to the Eco Nubia
This, of
Lodge.
course, is another. Yeah, Nubia is actually newly kind of opened. It's more of really an experiential place. Some young entrepreneurs have just sort of assembled this concept, and they uh, they really enjoy a nice traffic because what they did is a fantastic, really property right in front of the Philae temple, so you can't get closer to the attraction, and it's really kind of typical Nubia. The food, the staff, the service, the experience, the simplicity of the place. So there is, if you're looking really for a unique experience, I would certainly recommend Econubia. I think it really is a very, very special place for
Okay.
that.
Um, and
Then,
then
of course, there's no better way to see the Egypt than cruising the Nile.
agreed. I think everybody who comes to Egypt wants to cruise the Nile for a few nights. And I know that, the different boats that we'll talk about briefly, you can do different number of nights on the Nile. Typically, they go from Luxor to Aswan, I think, and sometimes people go down and back again. Um, how do you, how do people choose between which boat they want to go on? What's your suggestion?
Well, look, I mean, all our boats are really amazing. So what you look at first is the Nile Adventurer. This is the Sunboat 4, newly built, kind of like late 90s, 2000. The Nile Adventure is about also a little older, but all of them have been completely renovated just 3, 4 years ago. I mean, the Adventure is 32 cabins. It's just a unique boat. The design is really breathtaking because we brought the culture of different regions of Egypt just alive on that ship. If you look at then Sunboat 4, is being completely renovated last summer, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous boat, 42 cabins. Again, we kind of reassembled the whole country on board so that people can feel and experience, magical Nile and magical Egypt. Then we move into maybe Sunboat 3. The Sunboat 3 well, actually yeah, that's Sunboat 3. So Sunboat 3 is an 18 cabin vessel, designed really more like a Howard Carter design. It's very authentic. It's like a really your private home yacht on the Nile. It was voted by the Architectural Digest twice as the best design on a river ship. The people who did the design is actually a combination of the uh, daughter-in-law of the famous Omar Sharif, along with Jory Butler Kent. So both of them have worked on this design, and this boat again is quite unique in terms of design, service, and atmosphere. It's quite favored by the smaller group number. Then, of
And
course, the last one, which is the yeah.
I was going I know we have a little bit of a delay, but I was going to say, I believe that the Sunboat 3 has also been voted by Condé Nast as one of the most beautiful boats in the world as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that is true. This
okay.
is,
And
of course, is kind of what I call my brainchild design, because this is the Zain Nile Chateau. So I named it after my son, and it's basically a six-cabin sailboat with no engines, and it was designed by two designers, Japanese and Swiss, and then actually they also had an Egyptian, of course, working with them. So every cabin has a signature design. The royal suite is named after King Farouk, and his son basically came to inaugurate the boat because we took all the photography from him directly. Omar Sharif also has a cabin named after him, and he slept there. Then we have Philae, Nubia, and Napoleon Suite, and we've had an amazing guest list of people. I mean, so many Hollywood celebrities love to take this boat. So many guests who are designer or just people that want to just rest and experience really the best of Egypt. They all have been on this boat. This boat is actually full almost year round, even, believe it or not, during Corona time. So
and
it's just so magical that, right?
can you remind me, is this only available for private charter, or can you just get one room on
Yes,
the boat?
indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
No, private
Okay.
charter.
Right. It's obviously very small, but you could see from the pictures it has a very different feel and decor than some of the other boats. But if you're going to go to Egypt with a few of your
Exactly.
closest friends or your extended family, it would be an amazing option. And I think as far as some over-the-top experiences, each of these boats have, a presidential suite or a royal suite, and this one, I guess, would be at the top of the list, chartering the entire ship. That would be great ideas if you want to go to Egypt in lots of high style.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then let's transition a little bit to some of the experiences. I mean, the food is obviously like a Mediterranean type diet. All these pictures look delicious. Could you want to give us a little bit of an idea about different culinary experiences people can have there, whether it be, learning to cook or doing tasting menus?
Well, of course, Egypt has been influenced by many different culinary experiences from the Ottoman to the Arab to the Lebanese to the Egyptian kitchen itself. And of course the European. So food actually is one of our strongest point in Egypt. You can just find just about every cuisine that you like, and it's quite tasty. Egyptian obviously use heavy sort of ingredients. There's a lot of garlic, a lot of butter oil, a lot of uh, sort of onions. lamb, vegetarian also heaven, because you've got all these things, the hummus and the falafel and the fava beans
Yeah.
and the rice and all of that. Fish, of course, we have a variety of water around us, from Mediterranean to Red Sea to River Nile. So there's also something for people who enjoy fish. So it's just about really different experiences all across. And, you can literally find every cuisine that you look for, whether it is international Japanese, sushi,
Yeah.
steak, Egyptian food, Lebanese, Turkish, just about everything, everything.
And Amr,
It's one of the pleasures of touring in Egypt. Yes.
absolutely. So are there, at the different markets that you have, like do some people go and do, for example, a food tour where they might go and taste different things with a local Egyptian from different markets or different
Yes.
restaurants?
Yes. In fact, we've started this about maybe a couple of years ago. We have what we call uh, food food tours, in walking tours. So basically, people can go on a walking and food tour. They can experience things like, kushari, which is like a combination of powerful pasta put together with onions and tomatoes. They can experience, of course, these falafels and these beans, because Egypt is the land of beans. They can also experience drinking sugarcane and carrots and things like that. So that's really quite something. Now, of course, we try to organize this for people so that we make sure, of course, that hygiene is also part of the visit and where they're going. We know these places that have been
Of
well
course.
tested to many of our clients. But of course, it is a very engaging part of touring in Egypt, particularly in old downtown Cairo.
Okay. And then question for you about ganzaville. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Ganzavilla ginger is quite popular drink there, um, but they do it differently a little bit. So they do it with milk, they do it with honey, they do it with apple. But it's also part of drinking. And actually, I think people used it mainly because they smoke a lot of this shisha. So the like the water pipes, and I think it kind of eased the smoking part a little bit.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's not exactly the explanation that I thought it was, but I had read that it was sort of the promise of paradise, and it was Egypt's best kept secret. But perhaps some of us might partake in that, and others of us not.
I I don't know. I don't know. I no,
Okay.
I think it could be both. How about this?
Okay, good to know. All right, well, let's go a little bit to some more active type travel. And one of the options people have, which is fun when you're over in this area of the world, is to go scuba diving in the Red Sea.
Of course. Well, I think we have probably the richest type of water, resorts and water preservations areas. Of course, scuba diving, snorkeling. This is quite really an experience as well, and you can do that whether on the shores of the Red Sea or on the shores of the Sinai Peninsula. So both of them are quite really places to do that. Ras Mohammed, of course, next to Sharm, is a haven for that. And then
Hmm.
you have some beautiful, beautiful also natural reserve areas around uh, Hurghada on the Red Sea, as well as Guna and those places. So again,
Hmm.
this is really becoming much more popular now. As you probably know, those two places are huge among European markets. So we have nearly over 12 to 15 million tourists a year just coming for these experiences in the Red Sea. And then,
Wow.
of course, we have the mount climbing and the desert part, which is also very rich. I mean, again, Egypt is a very heavy desert places, and the beauty of
Hmm.
our desert, it is actually quite diversified. So you've got mountains, valleys, climbing, sandboarding. You've just got a lot to do there. The
Hmm.
rock formation is quite really something, as you can see, particularly in the White Desert there.
And so the
That
White
is
Desert
your
is
next
where,
slide in the White Desert.
oh, right. Okay. And just out of curiosity, before we transition to that one, so the rock climbing in, how do you pronounce it? Wadi Ganai?
Yes.
Okay. That looks stunning. So is that,
Yes.
is for somebody who wants to come and experience the cool historic culture and the Nile, they go to, for a few days, they go down the river on the Nile, then they might go up and see all the pyramids, and then they would come out potentially to the desert, go rock climbing, go for hiking, perhaps even do some glamping down here. Would you consider the camping in the White Desert camping, or is it
I love
more
it.
glamping?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can do, combination of that. You could do it camping. There are a couple of beautiful sites there. One is this eco lodge called Adrar Amlal in the Siwa White Desert. And that's really quite a special place. No electricity, no signaling, no Wi-Fi. Just a place where people can just completely unwind. Now, of course, that's not for every market, not for everybody, because of course some people cannot live without their phone and their Instagram and their social media and so on and so forth. But if you're somebody who is looking for self serenity, I would say that would be certainly a place to recommend.
Yeah, I think it's a nice combination too, when you can have both in one vacation.
Yeah,
And then for the more adventurous people,
it is, Mimi. It's a very romantic place.
yeah, I bet. And I have a family that loves to do adventure type sports. So kite surfing, my kids have tried before. I never have. I know it's actually a pretty steep learning curve.
Yeah.
But when you're doing kite surfing, where is this? On the Red Sea also?
I would say you can do it in Guna or in Hurghada. The winds there in both places is just right for this type of sport. So it's certainly a growing kind of trend. We have a lot of Germans who come for that, and they've trained now many of the Egyptians. So there's a number of schools that provide that, and that's also an experience by itself.
Yeah, and a fun one. I mean, by the way, look at the water, is absolutely stunning shade of blue.
Yeah.
Okay, let's transition a little bit now to some of the really fascinating people that you can meet while you're on your trip in Egypt. Do you want to give us a little bit of insight into who some of these people
Sure.
are?
Well,
Okay.
sure. Well, the Indiana Jones is my dear friend, Dr. Hawass, who is, of course, the world, I think, best archaeologist. I'm sure he's probably known to many of your audience here. He's known all over the world, in fact, for his discovery and adventures, working with obviously National Geographic or Discovery or other channels. So Zahi, of course, take and lead many of our special journeys in Egypt. So this actually was a picture that we did together with one of our group, in fact, about a week ago or two, where he took them in front of the bows of the Sphinx. So, I mean, obviously, people really, really enjoy a visit with Zahi to the pyramids of the Sphinx or the temples in Luxor. And certainly, this makes a big difference on a trip to Egypt when you have Zahi himself lead these tours, even partially. Of course, then you're looking at the lady here, the honorable lady. That's Mrs. Sadat, the former First Lady of Egypt, the wife of the peace hero, President Sadat. From time to time, she's also able to receive some of our delegations. Of course, the last year has been a disturbance a bit about visitations and what have you because of COVID. But again, she is a very gracious host, and we always can ask if we have a special guest in town who want to go and visit with her and her family. Of course, we also take people to also meet just ordinary Egyptians from Nubia, from Luxor. Just meet families. Sometimes we organize these dine around in Egyptian homes. Sometimes we organize just lectures with former ambassadors who can talk about the fascinating history of the region, the politics of the region. Again, the Middle East is a really hot place with lots going on. So,
Mhm.
I think you hear of us all the time, whether from, the Palestinian Israeli conflict to wars to troops withdrawal to troops deployment. So, I mean, we're just in the news all the time, and
You know,
it's certainly a place where people love to hear.
yeah, and I would say that that's one of my favorite reasons why a family might enjoy going to Egypt. I mean, anything from little kids who
Yeah,
are learning about,
and it
the
is very safe. Yeah,
yeah. Well, and also, and when
yeah,
you look at high schoolers who are learning about the world, or you go into, college kids, there's so many things about politics of
yeah,
present time that it's you're walking around in a history book, and so that's really cool. All right, well, let's look at
exactly.
well, we always like to talk about over the top experiences, and oftentimes those include hot air balloons.
Well,
And I think what's so incredibly special about this particular one is to go over Luxor and see the visuals that you would see while you're up in the air would be absolutely magnificent.
yeah, well, that's really an experience too, to just go over the Temple of Habu, the Temple of Luxor, and Hatshepsut in Luxor. That is really quite spectacular. You have to get up so early in the morning to do that great adventure, and very safe, by the way, and really, really an experience because after you're done, they take you for a local breakfast with some of the local people. So it's quite really something. We're hoping that we'll be able to implement that also nearby the pyramids in the near future. So that would also be something that we would recommend for people to do.
Yeah, I think you can't replicate seeing the pyramids or some of those beautiful sights from the air, that's for sure. And then
Absolutely. And of
camels,
course, yeah,
I
that's
was going to
your,
say camels
yeah,
are some
that
favorite.
is my favorite part. Yeah. Or horsing actually. You can also do the horsing if you're into horsing. They've got some really cool horses there, and the camels, of course. Getting on a camel is really something very very special, and it's not an easy thing. Actually, I always say to get on a camel is tough. To get off the camel is very tough. Uh, so you've got two experiences to deal with: to get on board and get off board, as I
Yeah,
say.
well, we've done it before a couple of times in Morocco in particular, and it's fun. I like to call it a good unconventional transportation. And then you guys also have another opportunity to go
Yeah.
out on an Egyptian boat called a felucca, right?
Yes, of course. That is a very uh, beautiful and romantic way to experience the Nile because you're really touching the water there.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do this whether in Aswan, my favorite place to do that would be certainly the city of Aswan in the south, or of course Cairo, to get a feel of the city by night. So both would be ideal places to do that. And it's again very safe, very peaceful. It's just really transition in time to kind of feel how people did live in those days.
Yeah. Well, it looks beautiful. So that would definitely is going on my list. And then I think you were
Lots
going
of that's my favorite. That's my favorite. That's Pier 88. So I
to,
like that. It's a great restaurant and it's right on the Nile. It's actually a boat that they transformed into three restaurants almost. So Pier 88 is owned by an Italian guy with some Egyptians, and it's really uh, the happening kind of place. So people love to go there for lunches and dinner. It's really, really special. The food is very, very good, uh, and the atmosphere is just uh, worldly. So the music, the ambience. I mean, Cairo's really done well in terms of restaurants. So we've got this one, the Pier 88. We've got Crimson. We've got plenty of other restaurants that are really Pasha. There's just a lot of wonderful places to go to now. And like I said, all types of cuisines are really widely available.
mm-hmm. And then
Yeah, I
bazaars and
mean,
markets, those are
now,
always fun.
it, very fun. And the key thing is bargain, bargain, bargain. So they're going to tell you, it's $10, and you just have to start from $2. So there sometimes I think the Chinese method of negotiation works. So you set your number because the way they do it there is very clever. So they set their number. So they bring you up to $10 and you negotiate from that, but it's actually maybe worth two or three. So it's better you set your number and don't be shy and then negotiate from there.
Got it. Well, this looks beautiful. I would
It's
definitely come home
also
with.
part of the experience. Yeah, it's also part of the experience.
And Amr, tell us, what is the name of this particular bazaar?
Camel Khalili.
Khan Al Khalidi. So that one is a good one.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then I love this shot because it looks so beautiful. Would you describe it for those people
Well,
who are listening?
this is actually a beautiful place called Alguna. Alguna is on the Red Sea. It's about 3 hours drive from Luxor. And yeah, I would say this would be really beautiful for families and people who want just to do something low key in a sort of resort city. So it's like really your Laguna, or the Huntington Beach, that type of
Mm,
town. The water is beautiful. The restaurants, the scenery, and you're going to see a lot of Egyptians because it's full of Egyptians. So not just tourists, but also Egyptians, and really quite active. Just something to do for anyone in the family.
okay. Well, it's beautiful. Alguna in the Red Sea.
Thank
And
you.
then let's touch on a few of the
Yes.
exclusive experiences that we can offer when we have guests coming to Egypt. Give us a little bit of an idea about the special access near the Sphinx.
Well, this is, of course, the bowels of the Sphinx. This requires a special permission, which our team can always manage working through the Department of Antiquities. I mean, you take this place to yourself. That's exactly where President Obama did when he came to visit, or your former First Lady Melania Trump, or even the former presidents or heads of states from around the world, special celebrities, special guests. That's what they all want to do. Just touch the bowels of the Sphinx. Just
Yeah.
the magical power of those 7,000 years of history really is
Mm.
going to be all over you. So it's a really touchy moment. And the
Mhm.
bows can be organized the day before. That's, of course, the Egyptian Museum. Sometimes we take this private. In fact, we've just had a group that went there privately last week. So they imagine 9 people spending their evening at the museum. Of course, a night at the museum is not something that is still allowed, but an evening at the museum is something we can make happen. And it's
Mhm.
equally as powerful because there you've got the collection of King Tut, you've got the mummies, you've got all the artifacts of the Egyptian history, all there in that museum. And some
Mhm.
of that, of course, a big part of that will be moving to the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is the big museum that will be open by the end of next year.
Hmm. And I will say that one of my colleagues told me how she went behind the scenes, I think, at the Grand Egyptian Museum. And she said it was just very emotional to be surrounded by so many artifacts from so long ago that it was one of her favorite experiences while she was in Egypt. And then let's look
That
at
is true. That is true. That's
here's
the
a.
Grand Egyptian Museum, and like I said, we are able, working again with the Department of Antiquities, to arrange a preview visits at present, and it's really quite special to do so. Of course, it is expensive, but you get a request most of the time for people who want to do that private preview of the Grand Egyptian Museum. And then, of
Mhm.
course, you have the most beautiful temple and tombs in the West Bank, uh, or even across the whole of Egypt. This is
Mhm.
another thing when we talk about royal palaces, because as I mentioned earlier, Egypt was a kingdom until 1952, and the royal family had built some beautiful, beautiful uh, palaces around all of Egypt. This, of course, is one of the most beautiful. It's Abdeen Palace. It's the current presidential quarter, and it is again a magnificent, magnificent visit
Mhm.
for people to make. We're again able to make that happen. by special permission for each visit, but it's a beautiful tour. It's about an hour and a half tour, and I think it's worth every minute of it because there you're going to see an amazing collection of uh, uh, French, Egyptian, Belgium, African, Ottoman, all types of collections of furniture, artifacts, and artwork, and chandelier and designs.
Just beautiful. Well, I think again, Egypt is such a nice blend of being able to immerse yourself in, everyday geopolitical conversations, the history that goes back thousands and thousands of years, the amazing food, the active adventures you can have, the under the water, up in the air. There's so many different things that you can do. And for families who are going over there, that makes it really fun because you're not just doing, cultures and cities and that sort of thing. You can really balance it out to keep your kids having fun and engaged and learning and doing while they're there. So
Exactly.
what I love to do is also ask you about, some advice that you have for people, some tips, which oftentimes starts with seasonality. Obviously, Egypt in the summer is a very, very hot place to be. What would you say are the best times to come over?
I think the best time, of course, is between September and mid-May. Uh, but I would say that it also has its charm during the summer for many, many people. I mean, we don't have a humid weather. We just have a dry weather in the summer, dry, hot. So it's really ideal. So a lot of people still enjoy it in the summer because it's not as crowded and just a bit maybe more relaxed during the summer. But the winter time, of course, anytime from September all the way to mid-May is perfect timing. Um, and when you come to that place, you really need just to indulge in the experience and the people and the scenery, um, and just really enjoy what the place has to offer because it is very unique
Mm-hmm.
compared to many other countries around the world.
Mm-hmm. And something that we touched on earlier was that if you are going to be there in the summer or any time of year where it's warm, make sure that you get yourself up early, get started early, beat the crowds, beat the heat, and get out early and maybe just move your day up a little bit. Don't go to bed as late so it's a little easier to get out of bed early in the morning. But then you're out there and you're enjoying all these
Oh yeah,
things with
it is
people.
active.
Yeah. And then as far
It is
as
an active destination.
yeah, I know there's a lot of steps. So for people who are coming, they want to wear comfortable shoes and they want to expect that they're going to be walking up and down a lot of steps. Is that true?
Yes, you're going to do a lot of work there because the places are quite big and there's a lot of walking and hyperactivity involved with all those visits.
Okay. Well, terrific. And I think if you think of any other tips for people, feel free to send me a note and I can include them in the show notes.
I
Um,
mean, I would say, you would enjoy yourself. It's safe, very safe. It's friendly, very friendly, and it's fabulous, very fabulous place to enjoy. And the experience itself will really mark in your life because you will see how our um, you know civilization was built over great work and great vision, and it really is very powerful. So that visit will somewhat conquer your heart, your mind, and your eyes. So you will enjoy it, and you will make many friends there. That is for sure. And
well, it
it
will.
is not that expensive, to be honest, and um, it is very different.
Yeah, super unique place to be. And I hear from many people who have been that it does stay with you. Like people say, like an African safari stays with
Yes,
you. When you go to Egypt, just feeling all of that history around you, it just is something that stays long after you leave. Well, thank you so much, Amr, for
exactly.
coming on today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you joining us from so far away. And I will look forward to talking with you in the coming year as more and more people are venturing out into the world.
It is my pleasure, and I hope I'm going to see the first booking tomorrow.
All
Waiting for
right.
you.
Thank you so much. Take care.